Hey folks, this is Paul with Live for Moto, and I have got a couple of tips for you new big bike adventure riders when you go on your first long trip. Stay tuned.
It's always a good time. It's always a good time.
Folks, this is just a brief message for those of you who are either new to adventure riding or planning to take your first long trip on your motorcycle. I have recently done a trip that I did not make a video of. I rode with a friend from western Colorado, clear up nearly to the Canadian border, and did Lolo Pass through Montana into Missoula, and then back to Grand Junction. The whole trip turned out to be about 2,100 miles, and I learned some valuable things about that. The thing that I learned about that was that, one, I wasn't in shape to long distance travel because it had been some time since I had done it, and two, that I did not plan how many miles per day I could do very well when I planned my trip. Let's talk about a couple of very brief, very simple things that you can do to make your first long trip much more enjoyable. If you ride a big adventure bike, and it doesn't matter what the manufacturer is, I happen to ride a BMW, but if you're riding an Africa Twin, or you're riding a KTM, or you're riding a Triumph, any of these large adventure bikes are instantly comfortable. You get on them, they're confidence inspiring, and you go, oh yeah, I could sit forever on this thing. But I have news for you. If you're 21 years old, or you're 30 years old, this might be easier for you to do. However, I'm 43 years old. And you know, I'm not an old guy, but I just can't sit in a tight position for long periods of time like I used to. And so I learned something on this trip. When I planned my trip, I managed to get all of my gear into my panniers and into a single dry bag, which I bought from TourTech. That's the medium-sized dry bag, and into a single tank bag. The bike was set up exactly as you see it with a full load on it. I had plenty of room sitting in the rider's seat, and I was not too cramped with my feet on the pegs. I do not have highway pegs, and I do not run a sheepskin. I am using the stock seat that came with this motorcycle. And what I noticed was that after about 250 miles in a single day, I was getting significantly sore on my backside, and I noticed that behind my knees, like around your hamstring area, that I kept having to stretch my legs out. So once you figured out what you're taking, you figured out your bike load, I would say figure it out around staying comfortable on the motorcycle first and foremost. And then here's the big tip. This is the thing that I made this video for. Do not plan on munching massive miles every day unless you are already accustomed to doing so. Big miles every day will make you sore. It'll make your ride uncomfortable. You need to make sure that you stop, you take plenty of breaks, and when you're stopping and taking a break, you gotta stretch. You gotta walk around and kind of shake off the miles. And I'm just gonna add to this one last thing. When you're planning your first long trip, whether you're just out of shape to making long trips, or you're new to the big bike adventure world and you're planning your first big one, let me encourage you that at least for your first week, try not to plan on doing more than about 200 to 250 miles a day. It seems through talking to other adventure riders that when they were first starting out, that was about the max that they could take before they got really uncomfortable. So that is the sole purpose of this video, is for me to relay to you, if you are new to adventure riding, or you are planning to go on some long trips and it's been a while and you're not conditioned to sitting long hours on a motorcycle, plan your trip according to not being forced to munch a bunch of miles per day. Again, I think the magic spot, at least for me, is going to be somewhere around that 200, maybe 300 miles a day. But I noticed at about 250, I started getting pretty uncomfortable, and by the time I had pushed 500, I was wasted. It was just too much to do in a single day. I do believe I can get in shape to it, and those miles would be a lot easier. I've seen a lot of videos of guys that are out there doing 800, 900 mile days, and boy, my hat is off to you guys. You are amazing doing that kind of mileage. But I'm not in shape to it, so my next big trip, I'm going to be keeping it around 250, and depending on how many days I have to make the trip, I will just plan according to that many miles per day. Folks, as always, thank you for watching, and remember, ride with a smile.